So when I was 7 years old, I was a little dude, a small little person, about 3 foot, 4 feet tall, maybe at best. I liked to do a lot of crazy things as a little kid. I would like to climb around. I'd like to be a little goofball, make funny faces, funny noises. I was that kind of kid. The kind of kid that you'd look at for a second, you'd be like, "What's that deal with that kid?" I was kind of that guy. I was crazy, obnoxious, but I really liked to climb things. And so when I was about, 5 years old, I figured out I could climb door frames. And I'm not saying like, like, oh hee hee, I go woohoo. No, I'm saying like I would I would prop my hands up like boards blocking like a Goliathan beast outside of a home. I would like stick my hands on these things and push and lift myself up and keep going till I was at the top of the door frame. Do you know how scary it is? I looked like a freaking like drop monkey, dude. I was crazy. And so, uh, when I discovered I was able to do this, I would do it all the time. I would do it, at my house. I'd do it at my friend's house. I'd do it when I went to my grandparents' house. I would do it anywhere I got the chance. Door frame, you best believe I was gonna try and climb it. And then, little lo and behold, climbing all the time, it can have its repercussions. And I didn't think that that could happen. I was like, what, nothing can go wrong. I'm so powerful. I'm like Spider-Man, but I wasn't like Spider-Man. I was stupid. And so when I, came to that realization, I, I never did. I never came to that realization until after the incident in which I broke my thumb in a door. And so it was an early morning. It was probably, about 7 in the morning. I wake up and I kid you not, I look up to the sky. Cause at the time I was sleeping in this little like mat on the floor, like a little peasant boy. And I look up and I'm like, ah, today is going to be a great day. And I vividly remember saying that. And I say that and I leave my little room and I go to, see my siblings out and about and playing just, you know, relatively quietly around the house. And I go over out and I join them. Uh, and then, it's early and I'm like, I look over at the door. The door looks at with me back with seductive eyes. It's like, you want to climb me? And I accept its kind gesture. And so I'm over there and I'm climbing the door frame. And my older brother, he looks at me and he's like, "What if I close the door?" And I was like, "Huh?" And he's like, What if I closed it?" And I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, "Huh, this is a dangerous stunt. But if I pull this off, I'm gonna be freaking awesome." And so I'm like, "Yeah, let's try it, let's try it." And so he takes his hand and he goes whoosh, and he closes the door. It goes, it closes. And I'm like, oh, and but it's fine. Everything's fine. And I'm still standing there, or standing. I'm ape mode right now. I'm gripping on for dear life, but I'm still holding on, and I'm like, what? This is so cool. And my brother's like, he's like in awe. He's like, oh, that's awesome. And having a little 7-year-old 9-year-old moment with my brother, and he's like, let's try it again. And I'm like, huh? And he's like, yeah, let's try it again. And I'm like, okay. And he grins. He does an evil smile. I like to imagine it this way. I don't know if he really did this, but he goes like, and then he takes it. But this time a little more wind up. He's like, slowly but surely I will hit my target. And then bam, he hits it, slams the door, it goes like a million miles an hour, coming straight towards my poor little child body. And the door, it slams. It goes, no, it goes more like, yeah, more like that. and I'm like, and I look over. I'm like, and I start screaming, and it's because my thumb, my little 7-year-old thumb, got stuck in the part of the door where the hinges were. Not the part where the handle, goes in the you close it, No, where the hinges were. It got stuck. It was fully closed. My thumb is between it, sandwiched like a little, hot dog, if you will. And I'm like, ah! I start screaming. I'm like trying to, I'm like stuck. I'm like literally being hung because of how short I was. And I didn't know what to do because I was 7. What was I supposed to do? Open the door? My feet were too short. I couldn't reach it with my toes. And I'm screaming. It's like at this point it's probably, like 8 in the morning, and my brother's like freaking out. He's like he opens the door, and I'm like standing up there. I'm like hanging. I'm like and I fall just like that, and I fall on the floor, and I'm like freaking out. My thumb, it's like swelling up. I don't know what to do. And my mom, my dad, they heard me scream bloody murder, and they're like, what happened? Because they at this time they were relatively young parents, and I was like, my thumb, and they look out and they're like, ah! And my mom, she's trying to comfort me, but my mom has a little bit of trouble with like blood and whatnot, and she was like, it wasn't bleeding, but she was like, oh, I'm gonna faint. And she's like, honey, take him. And I'm like, my dad, he's like, freaking out too. He's like, okay, ER, let's go to the ER. And so they pick me up, and they throw me in the car like a little sack of beans. And so I'm driving there with my dad, and we're enjoying the time as much as we can with my poor little baby hand absolutely swelling up like a balloon. And we get to the ER, and we get over there, we get in line, the pain is starting to become more tolerable, I suppose. And we get to the cashier lady, I don't know, receptionist, I guess. And she's like, oh, there's a little bit of a line, you're gonna have to wait. And we're like, I go, to, okay, ma'am. And then we go sit down. And as we're sitting, I like look over to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, and he's like, yes, Toby, what is it? And I'm like, can I play Fancy Pants on the phone, on the iPad? I don't remember which it was. And he's like, yes, yeah, it's sure. And so he hands me the iPad. I think it was an iPad. It was this wasn't the time when every kid had an iPad. This was like the family iPad. This was my dad's iPad. This was a cool moment. This was not super common. And he hands it to me, and I'm playing on it, and I play Fancy Pants Adventures, and that game was fire. One problem though, I realize my thumb, it's broken. Trying to move a joystick with a broken thumb is the equivalent of trying to prod a hornet's nest with like a silk cloth. It's not gonna do any damage, and it's just gonna piss him off still. And I'm like trying, it's like nothing's happening. I can't move it, so I'm like, okay, what if I just go like this? And I start like going like in a clockwork motion just to make sure that I can move the character. And finally the lady, she comes back, and she's like, oh, okay, you're ready to go. And they take me back, and that's when I find out, oh my gosh, my thumb's really broken. And I was like, I was a little devastated. I was like, what do I do now? And they're like, well, so you're actually going to have to hold your thumb in place, and you gotta hold it up too, and we're gonna have to bind it up. Just like that. That's exactly how they said it. And I was like, and so they bind my thumb up. Oh no, skeleton. They bind my thumb up, and I'm like, but you know, the day goes on, and apparently that same day was the day where me and my family, we were actually moving out. And that day was going to be our moving away party, and we, you know, we were having friends over, neighbors over. Everyone was coming over that night to our house, and I was the little nuisance that was like, okay, I'm gonna break my thumb today. And so, you know, I'm like walking around as with this little like 7-year-old like goblin creature, like homunculus, with my thumb all wrapped up. Like it wasn't just wrapped up like to the thumb, it was wrapped up all the way up here. I felt like I had Thanos's gauntlet before I knew what Thanos was or what a gauntlet was. And the one good thing about that whole occurrence was that I got to say, hey guys, it may hurt, but it's all thumbs up from here. Yeah, so that's the story of how I broke my thumb when I was 7 years old. If you liked it, you know, like and subscribe or something. I don't care. Have a good day. Thank you for listening.